Hi, welcome you all. Welcome back to the session. This is the fourth learning outcome today, which we are going to discuss. So once again, a very good afternoon. Mostly I record the sessions in the afternoon, so that's why I always welcome you in the afternoon. However, whichever timeline you are on, so probably good morning or good evening for yourself, or probably a good afternoon itself. So let's recap all the learning outcomes before we jump into the fourth learning outcome, and in doing so, you could see on your screen I have put down all the four learning outcomes. You have LO1, LO2, LO3 and LO4. So when it comes to LO1, it says understand the concept of strategic change management in an organizational context. So first thing which we understood in this particular unit was how exactly strategic change management can be used in an organizational context. So if you remember, I did tell you about in the first session I did tell you that you would have had those 5 reflections. Think about 5 changes which have happened in your personal and professional life. Reflect on those changes and see how difficult, on a magnitude of 1 to 5, which were the least impacting on you and which were the most impacting on you when it comes to these changes. So now think about those changes and see how you can put in all these different aspects of those changes, be it personal or be it professional. These changes have come to you over the period of time, your personal and professional changes, and how you could have dealt with those changes from the learning of this unit. Okay, so first thing was that we understood the concept of strategic management in the organizational context, in your personal and professional life context. We studied about different theories of the Lenin and Cotters. We studied about all of them, and then we got on to the next learning outcome, which was understand different perspectives on changes, right? So organizational change related to your different aspects of organization, all of those things we dealt in different perspectives of changes, that how policies and all of the things affect the changes. And then comes prepare change management strategy in a given organizational context. So we studied that how in a given organization, when it comes to different aspects related to your internal and external factors, how these different factors affect the changes, we got deeper into the understanding of that. And then finally we are here to be able to design change management strategy. So all in all, when you look into certain theories in the first learning outcome about changes, then you look into different perspectives on changes related to process or people, and then you see different aspects of change management strategy in a given organizational context. You can use your own organization, that how exactly your organization has implemented changes, internal factors how they managed, external factors how they managed, and then you finally coming up with a change management strategy. So today we will have a proper appropriate plan of the change management strategy, that what all you need to keep in mind when it comes to the change management strategy. So there are 2 important aspects of change management strategy. I'll put down right in front of you, and then we'll discuss it further. Yeah. So now let's look into the aspects of the change management strategy. So among these aspects, you could see I have divided them into 2 things. So as I said, that there are 2 different aspects. One is enabling a successful change, and another is justifying recommendations. So your change management strategy should have 2 of these important aspects to be considered. One is that you are going to enable a successful change, so you would be doing it at the end of the day. And then the second is that you justify your recommendations. So if you are mentioning that probably you don't want the office hours to be extended on after 6 o'clock, or you don't want your staff to start the day from 10 o'clock, they should come by 9, and it should be 9 to 6 or 9 to 7, or probably 9 to 5. So you need to justify those changes which you are recommending. If you are recommending a change to chuck the whole department out, or you want to downsize and you want to give out your outsource your activities, then in that case it's a change, and it's probably a big change, not like just changing time for your employees. Then in that case, both the cases, you will have to enable the successful change, as well as you'll have to justify your recommendations. So in both these cases, when it comes to establishing a successful change or enabling a successful change, you need to first of all have a very established, clear vision, because any organization which is operating in the ecosystem of different industries and competitions within that particular setup needs to have a very clear vision. And most of the times companies fail because they lack vision. One of the examples I can give you is the other day I was talking to you about the downsizing which has recently happened in the edtech industry. There's a lot of companies who have downsized themselves, and they have asked their manpower to move out of the office, and then they have been chucked out. So that has happened because somewhere probably the organizations did not vision it appropriately. One of the very important sources, through important sources, I came to know about one of the edtech organizations where they expanded their operations in the Europe, and somehow their operations in the Europe did not work well. And it was something like a strategy which probably they might have not expected. It could be reasons behind, the reasons could be because of the war between Russia and Ukraine. These are two bigger powers of the European region. So that could have affected their business. And again, there could have been XYZ reasons. But majorly, the plan was not, the vision was not there. And probably it was more of a growth-driven vision compared to a vision which is initially developed by the organization, or why the organization is in being. It is not that vision. Sometimes when I say growth vision, it is when organization is growing rapidly, it is getting a lot of attraction. There is a quick skimming in the market of business, revenue is growing, there's a lot of excitement in the team. So the growth visions are short term, or they could be long term, but they are visioned only when the organization is skyrocketing towards growth, not when the organization is incepted. So sometimes you can say these visions change over the period of time for the organizations when they go on a growth period, but that should not be the case. In my opinion, again, every organization has its own opinion. Some organizations do really good, when they have growth visions. But for me, a vision has to be something which is properly communicated to each and every individual within the organization, and you need to marry that vision with the initial setup of the organization, that why the organization came into being. So if you want to make a change within the organization, you have to go back to your vision of incepting the organization, and somehow you need to bring that change, keeping in mind the kind of thought process of why this change is important and how it is linked to our initial change of bringing this organization into being. So that's where you need to establish very clear vision. If you want to have a downsizing of a department and you want to outsource that department, sorry, you will come back and say that this we are doing because the overhead expenses or the salaries of this particular department are quite higher compared to what another company to whom we are outsourcing would do it for us. Right? If you go back and see, probably in your organization or other organizations, you would see housekeeping departments are often outsourced. Security is often outsourced. Yeah. In fact, I was talking to one of the, again, I'm not mentioning names here, but yes, one of the very important sources, and this was being discussed with with one of the conglomerates in this region, Gulf region, and especially UAE. and this is sorry, this is one of the top organizations, and this organization has basically done what they are replacing their entire security department. So they don't want any more security guards within their stores in malls. Reason is that the finance department came back and said that we want to bring this change. Why? Because when it comes to the security, there is mall security already, and you want to have a security guard for the store. Instead of a security guard in a store, if you are having like 30 plus stores, you are looking at 35 plus security staff. Probably a bigger store would have 2 security staff. Then you look at their average salaries of around say $2,000 or $1,000 approximately. Let's keep it to $1,000. Yeah, let's keep it to $1,000. So if you are looking at a salary of $1,000, you are looking at a pretty big amount of investment. Yeah. So what they said, what was the recommendation by finance department, that instead of having these security guards, let's have the cameras, the sensor cameras, which can alarm for anything which is happening around the camera. And nowadays, you know how technology is. Cameras have moved into a different direction altogether. There's AI and machine learning integration in these cameras, and it's a different ball game altogether. But yeah, what I'm trying to implicate over here is that they want to replace the entire security staff with the security cameras, and then mall security is already there. So there's a second layer of security which is already available, and they are already paying the rent of the mall. So they get the mall security service as a complimentary service for their stores. So you can see now if they are trying to bring this particular change, the finance department, they have to establish clear vision. They have to do the cost benefit analysis, and in that cost benefit analysis, they will recommend that our vision is to provide security, and security with probably an affordable cost, which can support the bottom line and increase the profit margins. So that is what establishing clear vision is. Then plan carefully. It is very important to plan carefully within the organization, for anyone who is bringing changes. So you can imagine, again, if I'm talking about a company which is bringing change of having the security staff moved out, and then giving everything out to basing everything out on the cameras, you can imagine that how important it is to plan carefully. If you are not planning carefully, then it will become extremely difficult for the organization to understand and to move forward and to have the important aspects in place. Imagine you just chucked out the whole department and you have the entire manpower moved. What will happen then? If you have a breakout and there is some kind of a theft which has happened and the security was not there, because you did not plan well, you did not look carefully, you did not plan carefully, what could have been implications if, let's say, there are only security cameras and there was no security staff? What could have happened? So think about, you can always come back with these discussions and discussion boards. We can always have this, with your teachers on, when you are interacting with them, with your support staff who are allocated to you. You can always have a discussion about this. Yeah. So what you would recommend to someone who is basically making this kind of a change of removing all security staff. So planning carefully is something which is extremely important. You have to do cost benefit analysis, and then basically you will ask for such a major step of change. Then you are talking about, it's about communication. Indeed, you imagine if you want to bring this kind of a change wherein you're replacing the entire security team, you have to come up with a proper communication strategy. You can't just go out and say, sorry, tomorrow onwards you guys are not working anymore, you're not working with us anymore. So that kind of change is probably important for your organization, but at the same time, your communication strategy has to be very clear that it does not disturb the very much being of the organization, for that matter, and does not discourages or demotivates the people within the organization, other people within the organization. Then support employees. So probably if you are bringing this kind of a change and you want to enable it as a successful change, you need to support your employees. Now another example which I can give you is of one of the companies, again a very profound organization in the Middle East, and probably you would see this happening in India a lot. Capgemini is one of the organizations who have expanded rapidly across the globe, and they outsource they take the outsourced service of accounting. So you can outsource it to them, and they will provide you the accounting services. So it is one of their in their portfolios, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, I was discussing this with one of my colleague, and then he did tell me that they have outsourced their entire accounts department. So probably the only finance team would be there, but the entire accounts department who do the accounting related work, they will be outsourced, and the current team will be asked to leave, and then entire operation will be taken care by the outsourced team. Now that is something, again, a bizarre move, because giving away no doubt there are NDAs signed between these big organizations when they do outsourcing of such as crucial and sensitive information. But at the same point of time, it is not that easy to do, replacing your entire accounts team and then the new team coming up. But yeah, there is something like supporting your staff. So the finance department was convinced, saying that you would get a better support by a company which is probably doing it at a much lesser cost and more efficiently compared to your current accounts team. So you need to showcase that your current staff is supported, your employees are supported with this change. It is not something which is just brought in for the betterment of the company and not for the betterment of the employees. So that was, again, I'm more giving example more of downsizing, because these are some major changes which happen in the organization. But you can think of implementing a measure of I can give you a pretty good example. This was again a very profound organization where what happened, that a new CEO joined, and he saw that the overhead expenses of the operating costs are are quite higher, and he was like that we need to control these overhead expenses, and these were related to the pantry of the company. The pantry was having bills of thousands of dollars, and he was just worried, why is it happening? I mean, we are paying thousands of dollars, and if you go and multiply the cost of the cups and tea and all of that per day, which is being consumed by a staff of 500 people in the office every month, and then you multiply that by 12 months, it will be a huge figure. So basically what happened is that he wanted this thing to be controlled. So what he did was that instead of having the system of ordering tea and making tea and having cups, use and throw cups and all, he replaced everything with powdered milk and a sachet of sugar, and bring your own cups from home. So that was a kind of change for controlling the overhead cost he brought. So you can see sometimes it could be difficult for employees to understand, but it was basically to support employees for their betterment as well, because eventually when the company saves cost, it is going to help the employees as well. You need to communicate to the employees. When you bring in new technology, you need to communicate to the employees why this new technology is coming in, why probably you are moving from normal emailing to Slack, internal messaging service. Why? You need to explain that to your employees, and then you need to use appropriate framework. So be it Quota, be it Lenin, you need to see what model at McKinsey 7S strategy, which we covered in the first learning outcome. Use a framework, something which you can use for bringing this entire change. So in your change management strategy, while you're keeping all of these things in mind, One particular framework will help you implement all of it together. Probably you'll have a better understanding of how this change is going to come forward over the period of time. So use appropriate framework and then demonstrate strong leadership. So you have to demonstrate as a leader, if you're bringing that change or if you're someone who's enabling that change, you or your team has to show that leadership skill. You need to be a strong leader in doing or bringing that particular change. So that is your enabling successful change and justifying recommendations. So once you have enabled a successful change, there are certain things which you need to do. You are recommending something, you have to justify it. I mean, no matter what, if you've been working for quite some time, you would know that your recommendations need to be justified over the period of time, because you can't just go and say this is how it should be done. Okay, fine, this is how it should be done. Why? Because if you're not answering why, probably your subordinates, your people who are reporting to you, they might not come back to you asking why, because of the hierarchical differences, but they will certainly not be onboarded with your vision. So if you want to establish a clear vision, you need to justify your recommendations. You want support of your employees, you want to communicate well, you need to justify your recommendations. So when it comes to justifying recommendations, these are quite self-explanatory. Recommendation must be logically supported. Indeed, you need to have logic. I think data works really well. You throw data on people and they will buy it. That's what in my opinion, this is what I have experienced, and many of my colleagues and friends whom we have been interacting over the period of time, we have seen this, that anything which is more logical is basically data based, and you give justification and evidences keeping in mind the data, and that would give you the right justification to anyone. It will give the right justification to anyone. So recommendation must be logically supported. Establish reasons for strategy. So if you are establishing particular reasons for strategy, why you want to strategize and you want to bring Capgemini on board, or why you want to strategize and bring, let's say, Ernst & Young on board for auditing your accounts. Probably a local accounting firm is auditing it already. Why do you want to have it? You can give a strategy that if you want to plan 5 years later to go public, to list ourselves in the stock exchange, we need to get audited by probably a bigger or better or standardized organization compared to getting it locally audited. So again, there could be so many different reasons. I'm just giving you an idea, perspective, that you need to have reasons for your strategy. So if you are giving out any kind of a change, you need to have a proper strategy in place before you suggest that change. Then indicate actions to take. So you need to have what are the actions. You strategize and then you do not give implementation plan. No, sorry, the change is not going to happen. A good leader is someone who leads to bring the change from the top to the bottom, supporting at each and every step with proper clear action points, how it will be done. And someone who participates in the doing is the one who basically indicates of actions which are happening. Then suggest time frames. So if you any kind of a change, I think, should come with a time frame. So imagine you are changing your house, so you can't just say that, okay, I'll change it tomorrow. You need to have a timeline, right? Imagine you say that I will change my house. If you're telling it to your family or probably in your office, everyone will expect a timeline. Okay, when? Is it tomorrow? Is it day after? Is it after 1 month? Is it after 6 months? So you need to have a proper indication of suggestions of the time frames. Then establish benchmarks. Small wins. Remember, we discussed in the quarters model, small wins are extremely important. You need to have benchmarks. Probably not that when the whole change has come. Imagine if I go back to that example of replacing the security guards with cameras, you will show what is the kind of saving you are making per month if you have replaced that, and that's a small win and that's a benchmark. So you meet these, you relate these benchmarks to your vision, to the organization's vision. So if you do that, if you are having the benchmarks which are related to the visions, then you are basically on a right timeline and on the right direction of the change. You can also go into, inter-industry benchmarks kind of a thing. So you can look at other industries and find out probably if they have had those benchmarks which have shown that the company has been doing good, and probably you can bring that in and say that if we achieve this benchmark, if we achieve savings of $20,000 per month, then it's a benchmark kind of a thing, because at the end of the year we are going to save this much. This is what has happened in another company in this industry, say textile industry or say online industry, anything for that matter. But bringing benchmarks or establishing benchmarks or small wins are extremely important if you have to justify your recommendations of change which you are making. And then finally, establish responsibilities. So if you're not going to win this alone. You need people, you need support of your team, of your employees. You need to have them onboarded with you. So you need to share responsibilities. So establish and then share the responsibilities. They should know, everyone on the team from top, bottom to middle to lower, all three people, the top level, the middle level and the lower level, should know about their responsibilities. They should know that this probably, there could be a Gantt chart, right? There could be a work-based structure, where you have allocated work to each and every individual, and they know that probably in the month of July on 25th, this job will come to me and it will be my responsibility for a week to implement this particular part of this big change which is happening. So all of this is basically, if again, just to exemplify, if we are replacing the security guards with cameras, so the store team should be onboarded with it. It's not like the finance department, the top level said, okay, fine, that's great, we are saving money, let's go ahead with it. Forget about stores. Why we need to ask them? They just have to follow our instructions. Yes, indeed, they will do it. But imagine how you are going to control the your pilferage or shoplifting, because that is a big part of the shrinkage. So somewhere you need to have the store team onboarded with it, that there will be no security in person. Everything will be done by cameras, and how powerful these cameras are, you need to justify them as well. So you need to have clear responsibilities. Probably some of the staff in the store's responsibilities will increase, and they would know that from X date onwards, probably there will be no staff of security, and we will have these YZ responsibilities to do, in respect to bringing this entire change. So that's what is your change management strategy. This is how you would bring change in your organization or within yourself, within your setup. Think, look, reflect on your learning outcome ones, the frameworks which are there. Look into the processes which we discussed in learning outcome 2. Look into the factors, internal and external, which we looked into the learning outcome 3, and then see that how you want to enable these successful change, and you can justify your recommendations over the period of time and bring change within the organization. That's your change management strategy. So I hope this unit would have helped you in bringing awareness, and with the idea of change management, we want you to empower yourself and bring rational changes within your professional and personal setup. Going forward, you will find many of the fellow professors, teachers and doctors discussing several of the units, and we welcome you again to this course of Strategic Level 7 Diploma. Thank you very much.